3 or 4 days, and then I'm coming for another 5 to 6. I know how to do it all, but it's
Oh, God.
And then, my sister's going to Mexico, and then
it would just take me a while to leave an icy
Yeah.
to recover from that.
Yeah, where's Shaq?
Oh, nice. Where in Mexico? Riviera Maya.
Squared away with yours. Squared with yours.
One
You got a
minute.
blue pen today?
Yeah.
Do you got a blue pen today?
Oh, I gotta take the red thing. Yes, it's blue.
Yes. You have one? I'll take this.
No, I told her to make sure, right there on your tablet.
Wow. Wow. Big hat, big smile.
Use the mic.
You want to talk to Mr. Geddes?
Mr. Geddes doesn't need to use the mic. His
How are
voice
you?
projects and is always heard on the live stream. Yours is not.
I have that right for the chairman.
I'm
Hate those
serious.
things. I hate those things.
You're nervous.
When I-
Simon
when I
says
hear-
we have Samantha says.
When I play it back to put it on YouTube, I can't hear you and I can't hear you.
So you mumble on.
I'm not saying anything inappropriate.
No, Frank and MC have told me several times when they listen, they can't hear me.
Well, there's issues with the software. So let's just hope the situation I'm using. Go to YouTube. Go to the YouTube page and watch one of the things.
I don't,
See the
I would like to see that they did.
Get one of those headsets.
Hi, everybody.
Afternoon.
I'm late? Well, I'm not the latest. Okay. Mr. has to tell a joke or a story, but
Get
he's
to your
here.
chair before he does.
we want a joke.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the August 6, 2019 meeting of the Delaware Public Service Commission. We have the reading of the meeting minutes first, July 16th, 2019. Are there any additions, changes, corrections to the minutes?
Will we adopt the minutes as presented?
Seconded.
Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, any abstentions, the motion carries. Consent agenda. Anybody want to have one of the items taken off for further discussion on the regular agenda? Or do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Mr. Chair, I move that the consent agenda be approved as submitted.
And I second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstentions? The motion carries. Regular agenda. In the matter of the application of Chesapeake Utilities Corporation for approval to implement a weather normalization adjustment. Mr. O'Brien is here on behalf of Chesapeake. Welcome, Mr. O'Brien.
Thank you, Chairman Winslow and Commissioners. Bill O'Brien on behalf of Chesapeake Utilities Corporation. So what you have before you is proposed order number 9431, which would grant the company's request to close this docket, which is PSC number 19-0054. Just very briefly, in January of this year, we filed an application for approval of a weather normalization adjustment rider, which essentially would smooth out the effects of weather variability on customers' bills. After we engaged in significant discovery, staff and DPA each filed their own testimony. After taking that into consideration, what their objections were to the program, we decided to ask to withdraw the application and refile something similar or identical with our next rate case. So that's where we are today. This order would simply dismiss the application as filed without prejudice, which would allow us to revisit the issue with our rate case. I just wanted to thank staff and DPA for helping draft the order and for agreeing to allow the dismissal.
Thank you, Mr. O'Brien. Mr. Geddes?
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, I guess our testimony was pretty persuasive. But in any event, we support the order that would basically terminate this docket, and these issues, as Mr. O'Brien has indicated, will probably be brought forth in their next rate filing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Geddes. Ms. Iori?
Thank you, Chairman. Commissioners, I have nothing to add to what Mr. O'Brien and Mr. Gaddis have told the commission.
Commissioners, any questions?
Move we adopt order number 9431 as presented.
And I second.
Commissioner Drexler, do you have a question?
I do not.
Oh, okay. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? The motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Number 2 is in the matter of the application of Sussex County, Delaware for a certificate of public convenience and necessity to provide water service to Ellendale. That's the place I always drive 24 miles an hour through, is the city of Ellendale. Not to mention Greenwood. Welcome. Please identify yourselves and
Hans Medlar, Sussex County Engineer. Good afternoon.
good afternoon,
Mr.
sir.
Chairman and
welcome.
Commissioners.
Is this your first time to the commission?
I would like to say yes, but it's not.
It's not? Well, we like you even though maybe you have some hesitancy about being here. Thank you. Please proceed.
With guidance from the staff and the director, the county refiled the application under a different part of the statute. It was reviewed by the legal team, and I think at this point we have corrected all the discrepancies which had been presented in the tax parcels. There was one which was resolved, and we believe at this point we have a complete overlap on the mapping. What you just approved on the consent agenda was the release of the parcels associated with Artesian Water Company. So at this point, they have been released. They can be now transferred into the county's CPCN. So that means we have a contiguous service area. We meet both requirements of the Delaware Code, Title 9 and 26, and I think at this point we do have sort of a roadmap of how to proceed with other county water districts, which is also very good. Thank you again to the staff team and the director for that. So at that point, I like to conclude my summary.
Thank you, Mr. Medlars. Mr. Willard?
Yes, Your Honors. Mr. Medlar said the county came in with a separate application under a different section of the law. Lisa Driggins is here to answer any questions, and I have to say Ms. Driggins did yeoman's work on this matter, helping Sussex County get through all this and answering a lot of their questions. We agree that the order number 9434 should be approved and Sussex County should be granted this CPCN.
Thank you, Mr. Willard. Ms. Iori?
No objection.
Commissioners, are there any questions? Mr. Brewer, Dr. Brewer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We just noticed a typo error. The Commission Secretary has gone to check it. We noticed that item 5 in consent agenda has the same order number 9434 as the regular agenda item 2, 9434. She has just gone to check it. You are welcome to.
Well, we're going to proceed. That's going to
and
be
then
a
we'll correct
typo
it.
correction that
Thank
we're
you.
going to make. I would just like a question, Mr.
No.
I would just like to say that kidding about Ellendale, but it's a very serious issue, the water situation. I agree with Mr. Willard that Ms. Driggins did a really excellent job. Thank you, Lisa, for all your fine work. Thanks to the county for taking over. I know that the people of the city of Ellendale will be very happy in the very near future with respect to the more cleaner quality of the water. So it's been a while coming. I know the governor's office has probably been, other agencies of the state have been involved. So congratulations to everyone for a good job for the people of Ellendale. We have a motion with respect to the order.
I move that we are.
The number is going to be changed. We have a motion with respect to approval of the order.
So I move that we approve the order number 9434, subject to the number change by the executive director.
I second.
the motion.
Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? The motion, any abstentions? The motion carries. Thanks again to everyone. The secretary will make sure that the correct numbers are fixed in
Yes.
the order that we sign. There's nothing on the hearing schedule. Is there anyone here from the public that wishes to make any public comment to the Public Service Commission? Hopefully someday someone's going to stand up and walk up and say, yep, I'd like to talk to you all. It's been a while. But I guess we'll go on, since there's no one here, we'll go on to the director's comments. Dr. Brewer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. As you know, this Friday, August 9th, Public Utilities Fortnightly is here to conduct interviews for an article that will feature us, the PSC, in PUF's October edition. The PSC's 70th anniversary reception will be held after the commission meeting on Thursday, September 12th. You're all invited. We do need your approval to schedule an additional commission meeting on Thursday, December 12th, if that's okay with you.
Any objection? That's appropriate, and it's also a good date.
Thank you. And today there is actually an evidentiary hearing ongoing in docket number 17-0985, DPNL's Energy Efficiency Program here at the Commission. The next Commission meeting is on August 20th. Did you get the correction? Okay. All right.
For the record, what's the new number?
9435.
9435.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With that, I have nothing other than to present Chesapeake to do their state of the company presentation.
Before you do that, just for purposes of the record, because of the Public Utilities Fortnightly's arrival on Friday, I had to gather the commissioners together without notice, et cetera, merely for scheduling them in here on Friday at a given specific time so they could be interviewed by the staff of the magazine. No other business was discussed or conducted. No votes taken. It was purely an administrative scheduling for the appearance of the commissioners for the purpose of being interviewed by the magazine. Mr. O'Brien.
And the
please.
same for Friday. There'll be no business conducted. It's just photographs and.
And we won't actually be gathering together because the magazine will be interviewing Commissioner Seriatim, and the commissioners will be leaving after they get interviewed. Mr. O'Brien, please come forward. We're interested in hearing what you had to say and getting to meet some people that you're here with.
Mr. Chairman, and also like to, if I may, introduce one of our new analysts, Jenny Board. She's sitting in the back. If you may stand up, please.
Hi, Jenny.
She comes to us. She comes to us from our own department, Office of the Bank Commissioner. Thank you. Oh, and of course, Izzy. You've already met Izzy. Sorry, I didn't see her. Izzy Cossey is sitting in the back there.
Oh, yeah.
Izzy Cossey. All yours.
Thank you, Dr. Barua, and thank you, Chairman Winslow and Commissioners.
Can we ask for you to get closer to a microphone? Because the people in the back will be able to hear better. Thanks.
All right, if Ms. Brown could get our presentation up, we will get started. But first of all, let me do some introductions. To my left, I have Jeff Householder. He is the company's new president and chief executive officer as of this January. He comes up from our division in Florida, Florida Public Utilities, as the president there prior to his promotion to CEO. To his left, we have Shane Brakey, who you've probably seen around before. If you recall, a couple of years ago, we introduced Aleda Sakaras as the new business unit leader for our Delaware and Maryland operating divisions. She retired in June, and Shane Brakey is the new business unit leader for those divisions. So you'll be seeing a lot more of him in the years to come. We also have Cheryl Martin here, who is the new VP and head of regulatory for the entire company. As you recall, the last VP for regulatory was just for the Mid-Atlantic region. Cheryl was regulatory down in Florida. So now she's regulatory for the whole company, which you'll learn more about over the next 10 or 15 minutes. She also comes from up from Florida. So we also have other members of the team with us. You may recognize Steve Bassino. As of last Monday, he is our new Director of Governmental Affairs here in the Mid-Atlantic region. He comes to us from an unnamed energy company that you also are very familiar with. He was with them for 29 years, and we expect another 29 with our company. And we also have the Director of Operations and a few regulatory folks in case you have any questions about the presentation today. Before I hand it over to Jeff, though, Chairman Winslow, you asked Mr. Medlar if that was his first time in front of the commission. I actually just looked up a case from 2007 when Chesapeake filed 2 rate cases ago, and Mr. Householder was the expert witness for cost of service. He was not an employee at the time. He was a consultant. I think shortly thereafter we brought him on board. But Jim Geddes was staff counsel in that 2007 case. Believe it or not, Glenn Kenton was a lawyer for one of the intervening parties, Delaware Association of Alternative Energy Providers. And you'll never guess who the hearing examiner was. None other than Gary Myers was the hearing examiner for that case. So this is not Mr. Householder's first time here, but let me go ahead and turn it over to him.
Thank you, Bill. I appreciate the introduction. I hadn't thought about that case in a long time. What I recall is getting thrown out of this very room. Some comment. Well, it was touch and go. There was a comment about take your radical rate design ideas back from wherever you came from, and so I think I was just trying to bump up the customer charge a couple of pennies. But, I know. Not that we're going to talk about that today. So. I very much appreciate the opportunity to come and share just a few minutes of information about Chesapeake Utilities. I've been an employee of the corporation since mid-2010, and I was sort of lured out of my consulting practice to run the Florida operation back then when Chesapeake acquired Florida Public Utilities. Prior to those consulting days, I have a long history in the utility industry in Florida and actually in New Jersey, going back a number of years. So I've been around for quite a while. As has Chesapeake Utilities. As you see the picture of Lockerman Street from the post office going back a number of years, and one of our gas lights sitting there. And I would not to disparage any of our other utility providers, but that electric pole there is leaning over the street. Now we actually run an electric division down in Florida, so I've been straightening those poles for years down there. We actually date our company literally 160 years ago back to the old Dover Gas Light Company, formed in 1859. We incorporated as Chesapeake Utilities Corporation, the entity that you know today, back in 1947. And in 1950, not long after that, actually began service with Eastern Shore Natural Gas, our transmission operation, bringing natural gas really for the first time south of the canal and on down the Delmarva Peninsula. And certainly over the ensuing years, we've developed a variety of distribution systems here on Delmarva. We've gone obviously into Florida and done quite a bit of work down there. We have an operation, a gathering system in Ohio, and a variety of other things. And so if you would just, if somebody got, if you flip the page, you'll see the operational areas that we are currently in today. We've expanded in one way or another into 7 states. Most of our business is still on the Delmarva or in Florida. But we provide natural gas marketing services, a temporary CNG business that we operate across these states and a couple of others, and propane distribution in the states that you see here. Flipping on to the next page, about 980 employees in today's company, 246,000 plus customers scattered across all of our divisional areas, and about $1.7 billion in total assets in the company. Last year, we had a record capital program of about $283 million. That was about $75 million more than we wanted to spend because we had to clean up one of our electric operations after Hurricane Michael, where that hurricane literally just chewed up our distribution system in and around Marianna, Florida, a little bit west of Tallahassee. And so we took this is a painful story to tell, we took a $17 million unit, and in 38 days we spent $75 million rebuilding virtually everything because most of it was on the ground. But we got every customer back on in about 38 days. And a lot of that, frankly, was due to the help that we got from folks up here. So we've become a company that's large enough now with enough resources that we can actually provide those sorts of assistance services across our various operating divisions, which I think is a big deal and speaks a lot to what we try to do here. The other thing that we've been pretty happy about, and we got to go up and ring the bell on the New York Stock Exchange. Chesapeake was first listed about 25 years ago in 1993. When we initially joined the stock exchange, our market capitalization was $45 million. Before yesterday, when things went south in a hurry on the market, we've been a little bit over 1.5 billion. So a significant amount of growth, and a lot of that has occurred, frankly, over the last 10 years or so. We have seen, obvious opportunities here on the Delmarva to grow down toward the beach and serve some of the customer expansion that's clearly going on down there. We've seen that same sort of growth opportunity in Florida. We've acquired operations in Ohio and essentially grown our company in a variety of ways in many different states. But a good bit of that is here, and we, just to be perfectly blunt, appreciate the ability to have worked with the commission. We have, I think, a nice relationship with you guys, certainly with the staff, as well as the commissioners, and that's been very helpful in us being able to raise capital and being able to do the things we need to do to get service to the customer growth that's farther south and up around Middletown. So we appreciate the ability to work with you guys. We don't always agree on everything, I understand that, but you've been very, very supportive of our efforts, and we see the same thing, frankly, in Maryland and Florida. So we've been very happy with that relationship. One of the things we're also, we spend a lot of time on is our employee groups. And you see part of one of our Women in Energy, or part of our a group of Women in Energy, standing in front of the Fearless Girl statue at the New York Stock Exchange. It was, and I guess assuming the appropriate pose there in conjunction with the Fearless Girl. These are fearless women, I can tell you. I know every one of them, and they really help drive our company forward. And we've spent a lot of time and effort thinking about diversity in our businesses and in our company, and I think this is just a small example of what we've been able to do there. If you move forward to the next slide, just to kind of highlight that even further, we spend a great deal of time in our businesses thinking about the culture and thinking about safety, service, and community. And it shows up in a variety of ways. Over the last 7 years and now over the last few years in Florida, we've been named a top workplace, and that's in large part because of the evaluations that our employees have provided. So we're pretty proud about that. We think it's a nice family atmosphere, and we've been able to maintain that even though we've added hundreds of employees and grown from 45 million to 1.5 billion and have expanded into 7 different states. The other thing that's the most important thing to me, and I say this every single day, we are living a culture of safety in this company. We've actually achieved about 30 American Gas Association safety awards over the last 16 years. We spend a great deal of time and effort and attention on safety. Shane will talk a little bit more about some of our initiatives here on the Delmarva. The other thing that we take great pride in is our internal corporate governance. Last year in 2018, the Ethical Boardroom magazine actually named us the best North American utility for corporate governance, up against the very large utilities that operate in North America. And so we're not standing on our laurels there, resting on them. I mean, we're trying to actually drive our corporate governance improvements every single year. And obviously, we spend a great deal of time thinking about customer service and thinking about the service we provide to the communities. And again, Shane will provide some additional details there. I threw in one last slide because cybersecurity is an issue that we've certainly addressed in every commission, including the FERC. We have a fairly extensive audit and penetration system testing process underway. Went through quite a process right before I came into this job. And the first 5 months of my career as the CEO, it seemed like I spent almost all of my time thinking about cybersecurity and correcting the things that our penetration tests had identified. We're largely at the end of that process now. We've spent a great deal of money and a great deal of time and effort to make sure that the next set of penetration tests that are coming up in November, we don't identify the same problems that we saw coming in. And so there's a very significant focused effort on employee training and awareness. We've implemented a variety of technological improvements, including, as I say here, an industry-leading spam filter. We've got the two-factor authentication process underway for system access. We've installed a variety of protection protocols, especially on our SCADA systems, which frankly were highly vulnerable at the time. Not so anymore. It's very difficult to get past our SCADA protections. And we've engaged a third party that is always out there monitoring our system and trying to find ways in so that we can make sure that that doesn't occur. So anyway, I thought that was worth mentioning. As I said, I've made a similar speech like this in Florida and in Maryland not long ago. It seems to be high on everyone's mind, and we're taking it very seriously, and we've spent a lot of time and effort on that. And so I'll just turn this over to Shane, and he will talk a little more specifically about what we're doing here in Delaware.
Right, so Shane Brake, he's been with the company 26 years in various roles. He's out in the community a lot. In fact, right now he's chairman of the Central Delaware Chamber of Commerce and the new business unit leader for the 3 operating divisions, 2 in Maryland, 1 in Delaware.
I'll take that, if you mind. Thanks, Bill. Thanks, Jeff. Chairman, Commissioners, thanks for this opportunity. Bill took a lot of my introduction away from me, and so I don't need to tell you too much about myself. But I think the big thing to know is that I've been in this position now for 30 days, so I think this is my first public showing. I'm taking the place of Aleda Sakaris, who has officially retired, and I think everybody got a chance and a pleasure to meet her, and she sends her best wishes. She's out west drinking wine and enjoying herself, I'm pretty sure. But if you haven't read some of my testimony, I'll just give you a real brief background. Been with the company for over 25 years. Joined in 1993, and I've had various managerial positions, including accounting, customer service, sales, operations. So people know me as the only position I haven't had is in engineering. So I guess that's still to come. But I've been with the company for 25 years. I grew up in this area, went to a local high school, but I don't like to say which one it was because usually half the room will boo me. I went to, as most people around here, went to University of Delaware. Also went to get my master's at Wilmington College. And as with probably most of the people in Delaware, I had Professor Correa as my accounting teacher.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. Flashback?
You were the one sitting in the front row and taking a nap.
Yes, that was me. But just don't confuse me with this guy right here, Chris Red, because he was probably in that class too. So, yeah. But I only brought that up because I'm pretty sure I got an A in the class. If I didn't, I wouldn't have brought that up. But so anyway, so although I've been in this role for just over 30 days, I enjoy presentations like this. So where we have an opportunity to highlight our employees and our customers and discuss our past accomplishments, but also to provide a glimpse into the future of the company. So this gives you an overview of the company as far as the business units that I represent. And just to clarify, so I represent our Maryland division, our Delaware division, as well as our Sandpiper operations, and they are the ones that operate out of Worcester County. But we have 175 valued employees within our team, and they are the core to everything that we do. They have a very entrepreneurial mindset, always looking for efficiencies, and they are one of the primary reasons we've been able to keep a pretty steady growth rate of around 5%. And then last year we added 2,800 customers alone, bringing our total to about 57,000 customers. But we promote a good work-life balance. Those employees aren't at the office all the time, and as you can see over on the right, we just at the food bank alone, we have volunteered over 600 hours in the last year. But one thing, they're on call 24/7 and in any type of weather. And we can never give them as much credit as they deserve. But one special thing that did occur this year is Senator Trey Pardee put together a state proclamation making March 18th Gas Utility Workers' Day. And he, as well as other elected officials and dignitaries, came out to our office and recognized each of the employees individually. And it was a special day for them, and that's going to be an event that we carry forward in years to come. So with safety, we do truly have a culture based around safety as a priority, as Jeff had mentioned. Earlier this year, we participated in the American Gas Association's peer review. And for those of you who don't know what that is, that's a peer-to-peer review where fellow utilities will send their subject matter experts out to us. We had several from as far away as Alaska or from Massachusetts natural gas utilities come to our facility and interview intensely our employees for over a week. And during that process, they're here to share leading practices and identify opportunities to better serve customers and communities. And in that process, just to put in perspective, they interviewed over 40 employees, and they take it even outside the company and interview like the Dover fire chief to get an understanding of how we operate as a utility. And then at the end, we all share notes and share best practices. And it was a very successful event. But one of the things you'll notice about our culture is that we aren't reactionary, we're very proactive. If we see a need to change, we will, and we will promote open and honest discussions. And for an example, several years ago, we identified the need to address our cast iron and bare steel that we had in our system. You hear about a lot of utilities doing that today, but we're proud to say that we've actually completed it, and all of the bare steel and cast iron has been removed from our system. So over 80 miles of main have been replaced. And while we were doing that, we also took the opportunity to upgrade our systems to go away from low pressure systems. And we're down to our last half mile of low pressure system in our system here in Delaware. And I'm sure someone will ask, but that last half mile is on Lockerman Street and State Street, a hard to get to area. But I assure you we're looking for solutions to upgrade that system so that that'll be zero here in the near future. And also we've been able to move all of our meters outside. So over 99% of our meters are now located outside. And of those meters, 25 or 95% of them utilize telemetry. So that allows our meter readers to read the meters remotely and not have to go into people's backyards where they may fall or get bit by a dog or something of that nature. So the next slide, so on the environment, we all understand the critical need to focus on the environment, and our team has received several rewards over the last year addressing that. The one that you'll see in the center of the page is in 2018, we were named the Air Quality Awareness Champion by Rideshare Delaware and the Air Quality Partnership. And what we had to do to get that award was show that we had a sustainable business and business practices, that we promote alternative fuel vehicles, as of which we're going to have 20 natural gas vehicles by the end of the year, and that we truly work to improve the air quality here in Delaware. And to kind of quantify the impact of what we've been doing to improve the air quality in Delaware, with our expansions into Sussex County alone, we've been able to displace over 8 million gallons of oil with cleaner burning natural gas. And that's just from the industrial sector, primarily like the poultry industries and asphalt plants and hospitals and so forth. But what we're very proud to say, one, that equates to about 25,000 tons of CO2 being reduced every year. And two, as far as we can tell, there's no large oil users left in our service territory. We've replaced them all with natural gas, with some exception. So those exceptions are when diesel is used for backup generators. We haven't got to all of them yet, but we are putting together plans where we have installed CHP units at several establishments, such as the Seaford School District and Dogfish Head. So they're using generators on natural gas there. But also, one of the largest number two or diesel users is vehicles, and so we've put together an effort to make that change, and we've installed a new compressed natural gas fueling station at our Dover campus. It's the only public fueling station in Delaware. We had a ribbon cutting, I think, the first quarter of this year. And it's in a prime location for Delaware, right in the middle, and we've already started to see some random Class 8 trucks come by and fueling up. But also, Waste Management, one of the largest waste haulers in the area, has chosen to switch their entire fleet over to natural gas, and they've made that commitment that, at least in Delaware, that their fleet in Sussex County be switched over to natural gas in the next 3 years. I want to spend just a moment on, as far as community outreach, informing you, if you don't know, about our sharing program. Our sharing program is an independent 501c3 nonprofit that was set up years ago to supplement the LIHEAP program. When the LIHEAP program wasn't well funded, this could have been a supplemental to that. And it is funded by donations, purely by donations, and those donations come from customers, employees, the community, and Chesapeake Utilities itself will make an annual contribution. And 100% of those proceeds go back to our Delmarva Peninsula, or the customers that we have on the Delmarva Peninsula, those that are in need. So we've distributed over $600,000 in grant money over the last 15 years through this cause. And this recent year, we partnered with the First State Community Action Agency and NCALL, and we've begun funding training for over 200 income-eligible customers on energy conservation alone. So next couple slides just give you a perspective on what's next for Chesapeake Utilities. First item, of course, is the continued growth we're seeing in Sussex County. For those of you that travel through there or live down there, you know that it's going through a boom, especially in the Lewis area. And if you can see the map that we have off to the right, that shows all the natural gas infrastructure we have on the eastern Sussex side of our system. And the two things I'd like to highlight there is none of that was there probably 10 years ago. So this is all new natural gas infrastructure. And we now have probably over 70 miles of main and 3,000 customers just in this region alone. And we're getting set up to be able to handle quite a bit more. The second item I'd like to highlight is that the line feeding Lewis is a line that originates in the town of Milton. That's a single feed line that's over 11 miles long. And we are in the process of trying to loop this system back to the Millsboro line that you see down there. And it's about 4 miles remaining, and we foresee that happening in the next 2 years or so. But in the interim, we have the ability to utilize compressed natural gas trailers that can be filled up at our CNG station to come in here in case there's an emergency that should happen. If some third party damages that line, or if we have some sort of system issue, we'll have the ability to utilize compressed natural gas trailers, which, if you're not aware, I think I kind of skimmed over it on one of the slides. They are 40-foot long tubes that can be filled with compressed natural gas and are the same things that are used in vehicles. Like for my vehicle, I have a natural gas vehicle, and it uses a small compressed natural gas tank. These are just larger ones. So the other thing we'd like to highlight is south of Indian River, you'll see a red dotted line. This is an area where we haven't had a lot of growth yet. Most of the growth is literally along the shore. But that red dotted line shows a pipeline that we're going to be putting in to get gas to the BB facility in Millville. And that project was made available due to the grant money that came through the Exelon merger for gas infrastructure. So we applied for that, and we were able to get about $1.9 million to install that line. We also got another around $500,000 to put a gas line down the center of Milford, which is an area in need. But both of those projects we expect to initiate in the next 6 months or so. And with the last bullet, as we go further into eastern Sussex County, we're passing by several community gas systems that are owned by our subsidiary Sharp Propane. And we've filed several times before for a plan to acquire these systems and bring them under the utility. And here today to say you're going to see another filing probably in the next week or so, because this is something that is truly needed for that area. These are the anchor customers that help to support growth, but also we need to know what our plan is as we get further into this area so that we can make sure we adequately engineer and design our system to be able to handle the future loads. But if I didn't say it already, I mean, there's over 40 communities owned by Sharp that are in this area alone and constitute probably over 10,000 end users. And then there's other entities in this area that are CGSs that are not Sharp owned also. On the customer service side, we have begun our online customer payment portal. So hopefully if you're a customer of ours, you've tried it. This was our first venture into that, where customers can now log in and see their bill and pay online. And within the next, by the end of the year, we're also going to go through just true paperless billing, e-billing. So to get away from the paper side of things is a request of many customers. And we're also instituting a callback in queue module, which will help customers with their on-hold times. When you call in, it'll give them the opportunity to have a call back at a more reasonable time so they don't have to wait. That should be implemented by the end of this year also. And then the final one on this slide is enhance our supplier diversity program. We are a small utility. We like to think we're big, but we still are somewhat small from a purchasing side of things. And trying to build up a diverse vendor portfolio can be difficult for a small utility, especially here on the Delmarva Peninsula, trying to bring them into this area. So what we've done is proactively gone out and met with several other small utilities in this area, including Chop Tank Electric and Easton Utilities, to create this partnership, which we call the Eastern Shore Energy Alliance. And we're sharing best practices and trying to bring in those diverse vendors that would benefit each of our units. We've held several meetings on that already, and we've held our first vendor workshop in early May. And finally, I began the conversation on safety. We're going to end it a little bit on safety. But what's next for us is the establishment of a safety town, which is going to be a training facility located at our campus here in Dover. It's going to be on about 2 acres of land. The facility is about 60% done as far as design goes. We hope to have the construction begin and maybe even end by the end of this year. But what Safety Town is it's a replica of a small town with different outbuildings, and each building will have a different setup of appliances or meters or different configurations so that our field personnel can come out and train in a controlled atmosphere. It'll help us with our OQ training, and also it'll allow us to bring in our contractors so that they can do some of the OQ testing here on our facility. And not only on the training side, but it'll allow us to educate our first responders and then hopefully even be a place for children to come for field trips. We've already begun talking with the Delaware Solid Waste Authority, who's building their new office building right next to ours, and their building is going to be based around educating the youth in this area. So they're planning on bringing in 1,000 kids a year into their facility, and we'd like to partner with them on that. So with that, I'd like to thank you for the time, and if you have any questions.
Yeah, we do just want to say thank you to the chairman and all the commissioners for having us in and for Dr. Barua to put us on the agenda.
It's our pleasure. Of course, Chesapeake's been a household name for a lot of years. And coming from Lewis now rather than from Wilmington, I like the map you're showing us, and hopefully the growth will occur. I know you and staff will discuss those issues and I'll obviously resolve them. Pleasure to see the diversity word used in several locations. Cybersecurity is a big issue. I'm just wondering whether or not the penetration tests are something that are now an AGA standard for all gas companies, or if that's just something, I know other companies are using them, but is that in fact a standard that's promulgated by AGA?
In part it is. We've also, I think, gone a little bit farther down that path. I mean, we've been bringing in third parties to take a look at what we're doing, and not only to test us, but to actually help us with the mitigation plan. And I think if I'm not the IT expert, but if that guy were sitting here, I think he would tell you that we've probably gone a little bit farther down that path than what you see in some of the association protocols that you're referring to. So I think we're in pretty good shape there. We by no means have reached the end, and as you well know, this is an ongoing process, and we will always be trying to improve here. So we still believe we have a long way to go, but we'll never quite get to the end. So
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Commissioner Gray?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's a very good presentation, thanks. It looks like a really good story, and keep up the great work. In 2 lanes, I have questions. One about your training facility. Roughly what size area have you deployed as a training facility?
2 acres? Is it?
Yeah.
It's going to be on 2 acres of land?
You get any grant monies from the feds, like for extended training in this area of, gas maintenance?
We have not.
Might be an idea to think about, because I think NARUC has actually, through their committee structure, recommended that the feds provide more money to extend the training because of the growth of natural gas around the country. So if it's of any value to you, for example, relief on your ratepayers, you might have an opportunity if you were to ask those guys.
I think that'd be of great value. Thank you.
And I have one other question around CNG. I noted you said you have a public filling station on your property, on your campus. But do you guys get a sense for the trends, demand trends around natural gas for transportation? And do any of your future plans develop CNG stations to refuel gas-powered vehicles? I'm just curious what you see from your deck in the area of CNG for transportation in this region.
Yeah, so what we see is there's definitely niche markets. And, the electric vehicles are strong on the passenger vehicle side of things. For CNG, where the payoff and where you see the most activity are those larger vehicles, like the Class 7, Class 8 trucks, the long haulers. So that's where they get a better payback on their investment. But it also does work for pickup trucks like F-150 types. They can transition over pretty easily. So as far as our trend, what we see are the trash trucks. We see municipalities like City of Dover and Kent County. We've met with them to talk about their larger fleets. Talked with DelDOT about some of their larger vehicles. So we see the trend going in that direction. But having our fueling station right on Route 1, what we'd like to do next is go after the poultry industry. A lot of those are located down in, Sussex and down there and are traveling up into the Wilmington area. So if we can, get that conversation going, which we've initiated, I think that'll be a big market.
One last question. Does that suggest that you have any renewable natural gas projects going with Waste Management, for example? Partnering arrangement where you're collecting the waste gas, even in the poultry example?
So we don't currently, but those conversations are occurring. We think renewable natural gas is a very good venture to get into. So we're definitely looking at that.
Thank you very much. No further questions.
My question is for Mr. Brakey. Was the Safety Town training facility established in response to natural gas disasters like the one in Massachusetts in 2018? And secondly, in response to some of those disasters, were any weaknesses determined in your own company?
So good questions there. I may ask our Director of Operations to come up here, Chris Redd, if I say anything incorrectly. But you want to come up here, Chris? But no, we're not building that facility because of any events. This is a training facility that we've been talking about for a long time. We actually send a lot of our employees to similar training facilities out in the Midwest. But now we have enough of an employee base and a contractor base that we can justify having one nearby here. And then I don't know if you want to respond as to how we what happened after the other event.
Yeah, on the Safety Training Center, yes, it's been in the works for several years now. Actually, we've been talking to the senior management, trying to get the logistics around it and stuff, and so we're moving forward this year. But no, it was not in response to the recent activity. Due to the recent activity, though, we have went back and reviewed several areas around low pressure. Again, I think Shane highlighted that we're down to a half a mile of low pressure. We have several forms of redundancy on that system and monitoring on that system to make sure things that happen in Massachusetts do not happen with that system. So we have full port reliefs on in our district regulator station that supplies that system, and we have remote monitoring that goes back even to our SCADA system. So.
Thank you.
You want us to stay here, just in case. But one of the other things we do want to highlight is our system, as we've replaced that bare steel and the cast iron, is a relatively new system. I think we have over 85-90% of our system is is plastic. So we've gotten away from a lot of those things that you've seen have been issues with other utilities.
I would like to thank Mr. O'Brien and also the company with respect to those issues, because when Massachusetts occurred and when other incidents have occurred, there's been really pretty much instant communications between the company through Mr. O'Brien and this commission. And the commission has a very active and good pipeline safety group. So I think we're all focused on a really important area. And I heard about the loop that you're looking to complete down in Sussex County. So it seems like to me that the accent on safety is a great idea, and the Lord willing, and progress goes, and we'll be quiet here, and we won't have the problems that other jurisdictions have had. So thank you for your work in safety area. Okay, thanks very much, Dr. Brua.
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so no other questions. We're going to say